What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be getting into solo leveling episode 8. I can't believe we're on episode 8 already. I think there's 12-ish episodes in this season if I'm remembering correctly, so we're pretty far, and I'm a little sad that we're kind of already catching up to the end of the first season here. It's been a really enjoyable ride so far. Last time we saw Jin Woo's character continue to develop. He's becoming more bold, even a little bit reckless, to be honest. And in the last video's review, I talked a little bit about how I'm starting to get the sense that he is kind of changing as a person as he levels up. He even says to himself, like, he's kind of thinking that he might be changing as he's leveling up, like even just his personality a little bit. And if you compare him now in episode 7 to the first couple of episodes, he's so modest back then. He doesn't really seem to have a lot of problems about his weakness. He's kind of accepting about it, and now he's like a little vindictive about it. He's willing to sacrifice a lot more for his goals. He's not just sacrificing himself, but he's sacrificing the others that are in his way, right? And maybe even his own humanity a little bit. So we'll see how that develops as we keep going into this show. I'm curious how the Hunter Association and the Guild are going to start to kind of overlap with Jin Woo's plot a little bit here, because we've been getting some scenes of them. The Hunter Association obviously has a little bit more direct connection to him, but the Hunters Guilds we've been getting little sneak peeks from some of their characters, and I'm assuming that they're going to start to overlap soon. Maybe as Dong-Soo comes into the picture, we'll get a little bit more on that. So I'm excited to see how that kind of pans out here. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into the reaction. Elixir of Life.
万病を治すアイテムか。この薬があれば母さんの溺水症も治せるかもしれない。命の浸水を作るためには3つのアイテムが必要だ。どれもまだ手に入れられてないが、どこにあるかは分かりきっている。だから今の実力であの門をくぐるのは自殺行為。
I wonder if he's going to be able to like bring other hunters into those gates with him, or if it's exclusive to him.
強くならない。
God, his blue eyes, man. I said this, I think, last reaction, but it really reminds me a lot of, the Avatar state kind of eyes. Like it's, obviously a little different, but you could see the power within it. It's cool. Haha. This makes me happy. I love Gino.
君と俺、2人で行くこと。
Ooh.
僕と兄貴の2人で C 級ダンジョンをクリアするってことですか。
He can do that easily now.
ですが C 級ゲートに入るにはメンバーが少なくとも8人必要なんじゃ。
人数合わせを使うんだよ。ファンドンソクの使ってた方法と同じだ。
でも危険すぎませんか。
See, he's such a risk taker now.
俺たち2人が無事なら19回のレイドを怪我人ゼロで終えることができる。19回連続無事故の攻撃隊。親父さんに実力を認めてもらう絶好の材料じゃないか。
そうしましょう、兄貴。メンバーとゲートは僕が手配しておきます。
Let's go. Enter the babe. Let's see her race Jin Woo, who can do 10 kilometers faster. That violin.
それで何のご用ですか。
驚きました。さすがは S 級ハンターですね。
Okay, so she's an S rank.
トレーニング中失礼します。私こういうものです。
Oh, is that his dad?
ようになって十数年、世界は目まぐるしく変化している。今やインフラ、経済、メディア、政治に至るまであらゆるものがダンジョンとは無関係ではいられない。特に人々の生活の基盤となるインフラはダンジョンの資源なしには立ち行かなくなる。そんな重要な資源を唯一こちらの世界に持ち帰ってくることができるのが。
I love how grounded the show is and like what it would do to real life. It's not completely fictional, like it's grounded, right?
ハンター協会は覚醒したハンターのランク判定、競売から漏れたゲートの処理の手配、ダンジョンブレイクの対応も担っている。しかし協会はあくまでも公的機関に過ぎない。実際にこの社会を回すために十分なダンジョン資源の大半を持ち帰っているのはギルドというハンター業を基軸とした企業体だ。ギルドはそのダンジョン資源の獲得をもってして莫大な利益を得ている。中でもハンタースギルド、白虎ギルド、死神ギル
The Reaper Guild. I don't know if we heard the Reaper Guild yet. Fame Guild, Knights Guild.
ド、これら
Cool.
の利益をほぼ独占していると言っていい。そんな状況を指を加えて眺めているわけにはいかない。
This guy's a true businessman.
これまで国の発展を支えてきた我々が責任を持って預かるべきこと。
Interesting way to view it.
立ち上げはそのために必要不可欠なのだ。
Yeah, he's putting a lot on his son's shoulders
S 級
here.
ハンターを引き抜いて兄さんと共同経営させるのはリスクが大きい。でも
Yeah, I remember Jin Woo saying that if you scalp stuff from a guild, you'll create a lot of tension. I mean, these guilds are very powerful. I imagine, like, politically, and, you know, they have a lot of wealth, too. So creating conflict with them is probably a pretty dangerous thing. I'm sure there's, you know, a lot of crime involved in that, too.
カウントされないか。やはり
Huh.
以前のシークレットクエストで選択しなかった呪いのランダムボックスを手に入れる機会を失ったということか。
So it's a one-time deal.
同等の価値のアイテムが出てくると思ったんだが、
Yeah, that makes me wonder what the cursed loot box would have given him.
この前のインスタンスダンジョンの鍵みたいなものが出てくる可能性もまだ。
Lucky, please.
だよな。
A little bingo card.
能力値が上がってくると3ポイント
Level 26.
だけでも物足りない。もっと手っ取り早くレベルを上げたいが C 級ダンジョンはジンホの連絡待ち。
He's a true MMO player. Gotta think about that efficiency.
ペナルティーゾーン、あそこであのムカデを相手にいや、あの頃より楽に逃げられるかもしれないが倒すとなるとそれに経験値が入るとも限らない。
Yeah, I mean, 3 points is still good, you know?
招集断るか。ないよりマシ。
I want to see him fight. Yeah. He's hesitant. He's impatient, man. I don't know why he's in such a rush. I guess the elixir of life. Like, he wants to save his mom as quick as possible, I assume, right?
やっぱり師範にはかないません。まだまだ勝ちは譲らんさ。でもやはり残念です。全力の師範と立ち会いたかった。またそれ。
Man, we haven't seen him in a while.
3ヶ月も経つというのに。
Okay, so they give us a little timeline here. It's been a few months.
緊急招集か。低級ハンターは雑用のような呼び出しが多い。
師範は本当に引退なさらないのですか？
引退？
Yeah, I mean, after that shit.
片腕を失った老いぼれなんぞ足手まといにしかならんかもな。だが腕は失ったが拾った命だ。さほど長くもない人生だが
He still could be a good leader.
世の中に貢献するために使いたい。
He seems like a good guy. Oh, we get him too?
次のレイドが決まった。
ねえあなた、そろそろハンターの仕事やめてくれない？
またその話か。
だって危険すぎるわ。この前のレイドも大勢亡くなっ
Yeah.
て。
And you could have died too. Once again, really grounded in like how hard this would be on people. They don't shy away from the darkness in the show.
金はいるようだろ？大丈夫さ。教会だって危険なダンジョンには俺らみたいな低級なハンターは呼ばねえよ。
I mean, that's what you thought before.
今のが特別だっただけだ。
そうよね。ごめんなさい。余計なこと言って。
気にすんな。
Eh, it's sad the risk people have to take sometimes to provide.
お、なんだ？
パパって強いの？
もちろんだろ。怪物だって倒せるんだからな。
That's cute.
よくも
I'm scared
やってくれた
though.
な。
何のことですか？
インタビューなんざ面倒な仕事をしつけやがって心にもないこと言ってんじゃねえ。そもそもあの仕事な元はお前んとこに来た話だろ。
ですが、郷会長経由で来た有力ハンターの仕事に対する真摯な姿と誠実な人柄を見せるということは、僕では少々不適当かと思いました。
うさんくさい自覚あんのかよ。ああいい。で、本題はなんだ。 お前がわざわざ俺の愚痴を聞くために呼び出すなんてことないだろ。
一応共有しておいた方がいいかと思われる話ができましたので、友人建設がギルド立ち上げに動いているようです。
知ってるよ。
友人。
回っているみたいだな。うちでも引き抜きの噂は上がってきてる。
それはもうご存知ならいらぬおせっかいでしたかね。
こっちがそれぐらい知ってるのは分かっていただろう。回りくどいまなよせ。もう一度聞く。
He's observant.
本題は何だ。
Fucking anime glasses and everything. Oh man, we haven't seen her in forever.
あんた昔から怖がりなんやから、あんたなんて辛いだけなんとちゃう？ B 級やっけ？他の人ならそれなりに強いんやろうけど、あんたじゃ足手まといになるだけとちゃうの。帰ってきてうちの仕事手伝い。お父さんも心配して。
勝手に話進めんといてよ。自分のことは自分で決めれるからほっといて。
ちょっと何あんた。
Aww. She seems kind of depressed.
足手まといか。でももうちょっと頑張ってみよう。
Her hair is super long. Is she gonna get summoned to it too? Yeah. This is cool. We're seeing some of the characters probably about to overlap again, which will be fun. I've missed the, the actual like regular raids and stuff. Damn, they're not gonna show us what they actually talked about.
いや、どうしましたか、チャヘインハンター。
先ほどト
チャヘイ
レーニング中に友人建設のスカウトの方が来まして、そのご報告に。
ほう。
何でも新しいギルドを立ち上げるから、ギルドマスターとしてぜひうちに来てほしいと。
Be going to Scalp. She's second in command. She's an S rank, so.
断ったということでいいのか
はい、その場でお断りしました。
な。安心しました。ありがとうございます。
いえ、そういえば私が来る前にベク社長がお見えになっている。
Oh, he's president?
何を話されていたんですか？
I wonder how much he fills her in, or if he kind of like uses her power.
あなたはジェジュ島についてどう思っていますか？
Jeju. Jeju's Island is where they first fought in the first episode.
第3次レイド以降、あの島は立ち入ることができなくなり、今は定期的な沿岸からの偵察のみ。大衆には年に
So it's like the ultimate gate.
伝えられる。人々は恐怖とともにあの島のことを忘れ去ろうとしている。ですが、僕はどんなにゲートの存在が日常になったとしても、人類最終兵器などともてはやされても、あの島のこと、あそこで起こったことを忘れたことは。
Yeah, they've been kind of hinting at
僕はいずれ遠くない未来に再びあの島の攻略を目指します。
Is it a gate or is it an actual like island?
方々に分裂されては困るのです。我々は力をつけ、仲間を増やし、世論を動かす必要があります。
取材や新人育成もそのため。
あなたもあるんじゃないですか、あの島に忘れてきたものが。
Oh man, was that the lightning S rank one? He was so cool.
あいつらを殺してください。
行ってくる。
Huh?
休みなのにまた仕事？最近多いね。この前まではゲートに行っては怪我して休んでを繰り返してたのに。鍛えたせいか？
かもな。何にせよ安定して稼げるようになったんだ。いいことだ。
His sister's so funny. Good little sister.
コンビニ行くんじゃないんだから。
He's got his inventory, don't
力
worry.
に目覚めなかった私の剣はモンスターに通用しない。数十年間やってきた剣はダンジョンで何の役にも立たないが、剣士である私が魔法系ハンターとして覚醒したのもまた運命。
Wait, he gained powers? I wonder if it's from the dungeon. No way.
まさかとは思ったが、孫君じゃないか。こんなところでまた会うとは。
Wholesome.
それにしてもあのあどけない少年はどこに行ったんだ。数ヶ月でこんなにも人は変わるものなのか。切断された足はどうしたんだ。
あ、病院で目が覚めたと。
Very modest.
あの後救護に来たハンターの中に上級のヒーラーがいたのかもしれないな。
Oh, so high rank healers might be able to like heal a leg, okay.
でも
Oh, he's so happy.
私は怪我を負ってから時間が経ちすぎたようだ。 だが構わないさ。
Okay, so it kind of depends on the time.
教会員から聞いていたが、こうしてまた会えて嬉しいよ。
孫さんはどうしてここに？
教会に呼ばれたんだ。D 級だそうだ。
孫さんもですか？
Damn, it's gonna be cool to see them working again. Let's just hope it's not a crazy double dungeon again.
なんたる偶然、あの日のメンバーが揃うとは。
I love it.
ジュヒさん。
Juhi.
キムさんとカンさん。
Oh, wow, it's everybody.
あの日私たちは孫君を置き去りにしてあの場所から逃げた。私に剣を突きつけたキム君はなおさら合わせる顔がないに決まっている。だが
Yeah, I wonder how he's gonna feel about all this.
5人が集まったのだ。なら
ジヌさんなんですよね。すごく見違えて。
はい、お久しぶりです。
背もすごく伸びてるし、足もやっぱりお見舞いに行った時にはもう。
え、お見舞い？
こっちにも若い女がいるじゃねえか。なんだ、そっちの兄ちゃんとできてんのか？俺たちとの足。
静かにしろ。
Fucking inmates?
遠足じゃないんだぞ。
Ooh. I wonder if the Hunter Association is setting him up a little bit.
あちらは本日皆さんと同行する代役服役者になります。
代役服役者？犯罪者と一緒に戦えというのですか？
Yeah, that's sus.
厳刑が目的ですので危険行為をしたりはしません。この区域のハンター
Unlikely.
人手が足りないのです。ご理解ください。
なんて。
I'd be like, nah, peace.
ハンター協会監視課のカンテシクが同行します。彼は B 級ですので、万が一の場合でも C 級の服役者3人程度で。
Okay, this seems risky for Jin Woo.
なんだか不安です。ジュヒさんは参加を見送ってください。
ジヌさんは？
俺は行きます。
それなら私も行きます。
わかりまし
She's facing her fears.
いや、自由って最高だな。
I wonder how strong these guys are.
こんな扱いありっすか？黙れ。お前ら服役囚。少しでも勝手な真似をしたらどうなるか分かってるだろうな。ハンター協会
I love that guy's hair.
カンテスト
Kane.
と申します。彼らは僕が責任を持って監視しますのでご安心ください。本日のレードでは誰が先頭に立ちますか？
孫君、私がリーダーをしても構わないか？
た。はい、もちろん。
ありがとう。また機会をくれて。
孫さん？
あの日、
Aww.
私のせいで7人も亡くなった。全員を守れ。
He's a good guy, man.
君のおかげで6人が生き残った。君以外の5人を代表して言わせてくれ。心から感謝している。
孫さん、声を上
Man,
げてください。
so much respect.
構わないか？私がリーダーをしても。
好きにしてください。
Yeah, and Kim is full of shame. You can see it, man.
そういうことですので、ダンジョンでは私が先頭を務めます。
These convict hunters are too excited, man. This is a recipe for disaster. All right. Good setup episode. All right, everyone, let's get into the review. That was episode 8 of Soul Leveling. This is frustrating. Definitely a very different episode from the other ones we've had. We got a lot of information in this episode. We got to see some old characters. And honestly, a very, almost like a heartfelt episode. There was definitely a few different scenes with like Mr. Son, for example, or Juhi that really made me feel kind of emotional around these characters and how they were interacting with each other, their thoughts, their feelings. It was a really good episode, and I enjoyed the kind of the different pace here of this episode. I want to start off by talking a little bit about Jin Woo in this episode, because he's definitely not the focal point, but I think a lot of where this episode goes and kind of how it ends off is around Jin Woo's kind of impatience at this point. You know, the title of this episode is "This is Frustrating," and I think that is a very good emotion to represent the state that Jin Woo's in and the decisions he's making. He's impatient around, you know, trying to gather the ingredients for the elixir of life. This episode starts off with him with his mom in the hospital. He wants to get stronger because he knows he can't go into the dungeon, into the castle yet to collect those ingredients until he gets stronger. So he's starting to really get impatient and frustrated with the fact that he doesn't really have a lot of opportunities to level up right now. And right off the bat, you see that he kind of backtracks on his previous evaluation of Jin Ho's offer around, originally he denied it because the money probably wasn't really worth it in terms of, not knowing how, he would change as he levels up, and his value is probably a lot more than 40 billion, I think it was, or 30 billion. But now he's taken this opportunity because it's an opportunity for him to level up more, right? And his condition to Jin Ho is, hey, we're gonna do just us two, because he wants to be the one fighting. He wants to get all the experience points. He doesn't want to share, right? So his original denial of it was kind of out of some caution and, him, focusing more on the money. But at this point, the experience points is more important to him than money. It's worth taking some risk, and he's still kind of being cautious with him, just them two doing it, and so he probably wouldn't expose his abilities as much as he would, but still, it's more risky than what he was planning initially, and it's kind of coming from this place of being a little impatient because he wants just to get these these ingredients for the elixir of life. You also see this in him accepting this D rank. Right? This D-rank dungeon call. And especially towards the end when we get more information that the Hunter Association is going to be there, these convicts are going to be there, and he doesn't back down from it at all. It's a very risky situation, especially with the Hunter Association there. He has a chance that they're going to see his true power now, and more questions will be asked at that point, right? So he's taking much more risk now. It kind of connects to the boldness of his last episode. He's being a little reckless, right? He's kind of being reckless here because of his impatience, because of his frustrations that he's experiencing. He wants it to all be efficiency now because of wanting to save his mom as quick as possible. But something that I think might be losing here as he's getting stronger was his original strength. His original strength was his wit, his intuition. Because of his weakness, he had strength around thinking things through, right? I mean, he took chances back then as a weak hunter. He put himself in risky situations, but he relied on his wit and his intuition, his instinct to keep him alive. And now it's kind of like these emotions, these difficult emotions, and his strength, focusing on just gaining his strength is taken away from his thought process here. So it's kind of interesting to see how he's developing as a character, but in my eyes, I'm seeing this as kind of a negative thing for him. It's cool to see all these characters come back together, but if you think about Jin Woo and the plot line here, I think this is going to open him up to different kinds of conflicts that he's going to have to face, just because he wants to go the most efficient route, right? So there's something to be said about taking it sequentially, trusting the process and taking it slowly over time, especially because he doesn't really have a cap as far as he knows. Why does he have to rush so much? His mom's on life support, he can afford to pay for it. He really should be taking a more sequential, step-by-step process here and being patient rather than just being like, I gotta get this, because there's a lot of risk associated with this power being kind of an unknown thing, not just only to himself, but to the world, and how the Hunter Association and the guild masters, the guilds would react to this, right? So we'll have to see how this kind of pans out and what implications will come through from this. I'm assuming the next episode when they go do this raid, we might get the plot and the conflict might expand a lot in this show. Off the bat, we see more of Jin Ho and the Yujin Construction Company. We see a conversation between him and his father about how the appearance of gates and dungeons has really affected the world. It's affected politics, the economy, infrastructure, right? And the Yujin Company is very focused on the infrastructure portion, but I really enjoyed this conversation because this world is very grounded in what it would kind of be like to real life. In a lot of shows that I've seen that are kind of centered around the video game life, like Sword Art Online, for example, it's very much more fantasy based, right? Like it's very centered around the game itself, and Solo Leveling is very focused on that, but it has a very realistic approach to it. It talks about the politics, it talks about the economy, the business portion of it, and I think that's really interesting because it makes the world feel deeper, right? It's not just centered on the game, and the game itself is really cool, right? Don't get me wrong, that's definitely the strongest point of this story so far, but the fact that it's grounded too, it just opens up a lot of different subplots or plot lines that can be introduced in the storyline, and it makes it more interesting and engaging to think about. So I'm really enjoying that aspect of it in this plot line with the Yujin company trying to start its own guild, because there's so many resources that are tied with the infrastructure of the world now that you kind of need to be a player in that, unless you want to just kind of be the one exposed to these monopolies that the guilds have, right? So it's a pretty interesting plotline to see them try to become a guild, and obviously they're trying to scalp the S rank hunter, who's the second in command of the hunter guild. I'll try to say her name. I think it's Cha Hain. Might be pronouncing that wrong. We've gotten a little bit of information about her. She's the more quiet hunter, and I don't know if she's the only S rank hunter that's not ahead of a guild. I think they said there was like 5 or 6 guilds, and there's 7 S rank hunters. So maybe there's 1 or 2 that aren't heads of guilds, but she's the one that's kind of second command. I'm interested in her relationship with the head of that guild, the guild master. I forgot his name, but the red hair hunter with the glasses, the one that talks to Beck in this episode. He seems to be more of the, I don't want to say manipulative, but crafty type, sneaky, right? And you can see that in his conversation with Beck a bit. And so I'm kind of curious of like what kind of relationship they have, and how that is going to pan out, because they're definitely setting up a little bit that she might get scalped. Even though she denied their offer, there could be something deeper that happens here. But let's talk a little bit about his conversation with Beck, and they talk about the interview he set him up in a few episodes ago, and he's upset that he had to do that. But they talk a little bit about Jeju Island more, and I think they referenced it last episode a bit more, and that's the island that we saw the S-rank hunters fighting at in the very first episode, the very first opening scene. And we haven't got a lot of information since then, but the first episode kind of started off in more of like a triumphant manner, like, showing the power of the hunters in this cool world, and now we're starting to get information that was a failure. It wasn't a successful assault. And we even see that, I guess, Beck, lost his close comrade here, that lightning hunter, S-rank hunter, I think that's who it is. I'll try to say his name too. I think it's Byung-gu, if I remember correctly. But he was like the one that used lightning in the first episode. It was really cool, but I'm pretty sure when they flashed you, that was the one who was getting eaten by those giant ants. Obviously it was, from what they're saying here, it was a failed attempt to raid this island. And the Hunter Guild Master wants to, build public influence and gather strength again to try to take on that island. I don't know if it's for an alternative reason, but it seems like it's his primary goal right now. I'd imagine there's probably more to that island that we don't know yet. They keep calling it an island and not a gate, so I'm curious, what part it has in the world. Is this like where, the magical center is, where all the magic power comes from? And there's more to it because it's like the strongest place, and the S-rank hunters can even handle it. So I'm sure we'll get a lot more information as it goes, but it's starting to get really intriguing about what Jeju Island really is. So outside of that, I think probably my favorite part of the episode was getting more of the characters from the first couple episodes. We get Mr. Song and we get Mr. Kim and Juhee actually. Let's talk about Mr. Song a little bit, because I'd have to say that his character is my favorite part of this whole episode. We see him in the training grounds and he's still training people. They talk about him wanting to retire, or his student asks him if he's going to retire, and he has such like a very grounded, respectable personality, right? Or I guess values or character. It's probably his character, I guess I should say. He really just wants to still give to society, despite his loss that he had and maybe how he doesn't have as much ability as he used to, he still wants to give a lot, right? And I think that's a very admirable trait that he has, and something that, it's a good quality that you see in older people who, even when they are retired in real life, maybe they go volunteer a lot, or they they just give a lot to the world still. You know, it's not about them necessarily, it's about what they can give still. And I think that's a really, really cool trait we see in him. And we see that also his respect for Jin Woo. You know, he's so happy to see Jin Woo when he runs into him. He's so happy to see he's healed and how much he's grown. And even when he asked to take on as the lead role of the hunter for the raid, he's so respectful, and he takes ownership over the deaths of the people in the last dungeon, and he thanks Jin Woo again, and he expresses his gratitude for everyone in that dungeon, including Mr. Kim and I think Mr. Kane and Joo-hee, who he saved. You know, they basically sacrificed him, and he expresses deep gratitude for that. He has so much respect. He bows to Jin Woo, and he has such a good character. And you know, we kind of get you know, a bit of a comparison to him to Mr. Kane, and we see Mr. Kane's flash to him with his family, and Mr. Kane, on the other hand, you can see it in his demeanor. He is full of shame. He's hiding from what he did and in denial about the dangers of his job. You know, he's still trying to do it. His wife's concerned. His daughter sees him as a strong person, but we know differently. We know he has some cowardice in him, and you can tell he's ashamed of what he did. And even when they all meet together, he can barely look them in the eyes. He keeps looking away. That's shame, right? He can't bear to look them in the eyes. I thought it was really great even that Mr. Sun even still asked him for permission. You know, Mr. Sun still respects him despite what, you know, kind of what he did, what Mr. Kim did there. And I don't know, you could, the comparison or the dichotomy between those two characters, I think, is really good writing in this case to, you know, show how you can deal with these situations differently, right? Like as a person, or, you know, you get put in a hard situation, and, you know, even though Mr. San didn't, you know, he didn't commit as much selfishness as Mr. Kim did. You can still see that he apologizes, he takes responsibility for everything that happened in that situation, whereas Mr. Kim is kind of shying away from it. He's turning his face again. He's running away from it. And that's such a very applicable thing to real life, right? Because there's so many situations where people will mess up, right? But you can take responsibility for it. You can express your gratitude and thankfulness to someone. You can apologize to them, and that builds your character more. And it releases that shame once again. And shame is very, very strong in the show so far, and I really enjoy how the author writes about it and expresses it into the characters that they have, and how it's kind of insidious. You can see it. I'm curious how this will express itself in the actual dungeon itself. I think the next episode's gonna be a banger. I'm really excited. Lastly, you know, in the raid, we see that the Hunter Association is involved. It's the associate Khan or something, Khan. He's one of the ones who came to Jin Woo in the hospital to measure his magical ability, see if he got a second awakening. And with him is 3 hunter convicts who are trying to lower their sentences. And they all look pretty sleazy. They look a little creepy. Talk about risk for Jin Woo. I mean, this is not a good dungeon for him to be going into. I think this might expose him. Who knows what these convicts are gonna do. And I'm even curious if this is a setup from the Hunter Association to get more information about Jin Woo. You know, they're trying to put him in a difficult situation to maybe see if there's something more to him. And if I was Jin Woo, warning flags would be going off, and I might back out of this, but you know, it doesn't seem like he's too hesitant about it. We'll see what kind of inner dialogue he has in the next episode. I'm sure we'll get more of his perspective, but this is definitely risky, so we'll have to see how this pans out. But yeah, really good episode. I hope y'all enjoyed the reaction, the review. If you did, go ahead and drop a like, drop a comment down below, let me know what y'all thought, and I appreciate every one of you guys watching, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Peace.